Hi there, this is Two Legs Better, and welcome to my channel. And today's talk is about decision making, but I also want to talk about football. Not the football on the field, but football in terms of people. Last Wednesday was the National Signing Day. So in America, it's a big deal because the high school seniors, they are chosen, they will sign their letter of commitment to or whatever it's called to colleges and to play. In my attention, that's football. So they play football there. And another thing you got to know is recent years in America, it's the law, you know, basically made it possible to pay these players even in high school. But that whenever you have money involved, and if you are a top end athlete, you can get paid for a filthy amount of money. You think about Nico Yamaliyawa, and Tennessee paid him apparently like $9 million or something. Back then, it was like an astronomical number. And then last year, the Michigan paid $12 million to Bryce Underwood to play quarterback for Michigan, and that's also a very high number. And think about these people. These are high school players. They never even played. They never even enter college yet, and they are not even adults for many of them when they receive those kind of deals. And but the thing is, they still need to make that kind of decisions, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And using a few of the stories, some ongoing, some already concluded. But I want to talk about that, and so now full disclosure. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about my background related. I have been studying psychology my whole life. I studied decision making at the Ohio State University, and negotiations and communications, and I also taught in Hong Kong, in China, in terms of negotiation, management and things related to that. So I do have a lot of expertise in that area in terms of psychology and decision making, the mental process, the cognitions, and things like that. And also my my wife is a psychologist, and she got her degree from University of Pennsylvania. That's why I had that T-shirt. If you notice in my previous videos, whatever. So we discuss in depth about a lot of the things and decision makings grow up, and more than that, I'm also a father, and my son is still young, but raising a child, raising children, give you a very different perspective because you got to put yourself in their shoes. You think about these issues, and that gave me a whole new appreciation of what kind of a life and what kind of difficulties these people were dealing with. So also in terms of a full disclosure, here I don't pretend to be an insider. I don't know any of these people I'm talking about. All the information I get is from the online sources and from forums. The Bug Planet, that's my favorite. Hats off to them. But you all know that the information online a lot of times are emotionally charged and sometimes fake, sometimes untimely. And there are a lot of problems with the information. So I try my best to focus on the solid information. It's almost like the football teams. The football teams, I try to listen to the players and the coaches, and other than the second-hand information about from other people. So, but here I'll try to do the same, but I don't want it to be like an indictment to any of the people I mentioned about. I may comment on my view on their decision making or the impact of their decision making, but it doesn't mean I'm here to judge them. We all have our own demons, so I don't want to like judge somebody, especially somebody I don't know. I just want to discuss the issue and hopefully shed some light on some of the potential ways if it can help some people, give you some thoughts. That'll be my opinion. If anything, it's not about them. It's not about. It's about me. It's about my reflections over time about decision making based on my expertise and experience over the years. So with that in mind, try to let's try to get into that. So you you know that I'll show you the first one, and this is the guy. Okay. Okay, this is Chris Henry Jr. Henry Jr. is a big time high school football player. He's very tall, over 6'6", and very fast. He's a great receiver, and he's the #1 receiver in this class. And he was heavily recruited by Brian Hartline. So he has been committed to the Buckeyes for over a year now. I think way over a year, and very committed. A lot of other schools like Oregon and other schools, USC, they try to they try to recruit him. And USC is in the backyard. He lives in California now, and Oregon is on the West Coast. But he lived in Ohio before, and he really wanted to be a Buckeye. Let's put it that way, and particularly because of the Buckeyes' record in terms of wide receivers. But the day I told you last Wednesday was the National Signing Day. But here's the timeline. The timeline is people were told nothing would happen, no drama for the Ohio State recruiting class. Before that, that's the consensus of most of the reporters. However, on Tuesday night, the midnight, Ryan Day received a call from Brian Hartline and informing him that he's accepting a job to go to be the head coach at University of South Florida, because USF just lost their coach a few days before that. So the process really just unfolded really, really quickly. Now, the thing is, to me personally, I think it shows the character of Brian Hartline and Ryan Day. Well, first the Brian Hartline, because if Brian didn't say anything that night, because it's late at night, they say something the next day, that's the National Signing Day. It will caught everybody off guard. Well, it's still, but you know what I mean. And for Ryan Day, he could hold off the information and announce that later that day, or even the day after that. He could. I'm not saying he should or anything, or even if he decided to, whether he could, because the information nowadays is just so fast. So, whatever that is, from what I heard from Jeremy Birmingham and others, is that Ryan Day and the staff started to contact Chris Henry the minute after they heard about the news, because this is clearly important, especially to the wide receiver recruits. And they couldn't reach Chris Henry, which I totally respect. How many of the high school kids, they turn off their phones, So I respect Chris Henry Jr. for that. I think it's a very mature thing to do, because there's so much distractions, right? And then they try to contact him the next morning, and they couldn't. And eventually they get hold of some people close to Chris and informed the information. And then Chris Henry Jr. decided to hold off to reevaluate everything, which I know it sounds stressful for Buckeye fans, but I totally understand, and I think it's the responsible thing to do. You can't just blindly build your faith on something, Sure, Brian Hartline is great, right? Now he left, you just say, Ohio State is going to be fine, it's going to be great. It's not that easy. If you are 18-year-old, if you build a relationship with a coach, it's almost like a father, to a lot of extent. You believe you can talk to, you can learn from, you can grow, and they will have your back if there's any difficulties or anything. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal, So he said he wanted to reevaluate. But of course, then everybody starts to speculate. There's so much information speculating everywhere, and of course, when people speculate, the first thing people talk about is money. The people is saying, Ohio State, just pay him whatever he wants. He's the number one wide receiver recruit. It's not that simple. Ohio State is an institution. They have their own philosophy, which I totally agree. Why would you pay a high school kid who hasn't even played football yet in college a filthy amount of money, maybe even higher than the people who already contributed? You think about it, would you pay him more than you would pay Brandon Inniss? Brandon Inniss has not been a starter for the first several years, and he's a starter now, of course, but he has been on the team and contributed in many different ways. Would you pay a new player more than that? I agree you would pay JJ, Jeremiah Smith, maybe more than that, but still, would you pay Jeremiah Smith more than Emeka Egbuka? You shouldn't. It's like why would you pay a person still in high school $12 million? And it's way beyond me. The $12 million, you can do that. You can pay $3 million to get the best quarterback in the country each year for 4 years. And this is just a high school kid, whatever, but that's just a whatever. And then the information come out is this. The information come out is Ohio State agreed to pay $800,000. It's still a lot of money. Remember, it's a lot of money. It's almost $1 million to Chris Henry Jr. to come to Ohio State. However, listen to this. Reportedly, Oregon promised to pay $2 million. $2 million when you are 18 years old. Think about that. If anybody who says, you shouldn't worry about money, they are lying. They are lying. I mean, think about it. One pot of gold, the other pot of gold. The difference is $1.2 million, So that's definitely not easy. And so here's my most rational thoughts on this. If I were to advise my son on this, I'm not going to decide for him. I'm going to advise him. But here's my advice would be, you have risk on either way. Say, you take the money. You take the money. You take $2 million. Now you are 1.2 million richer than you possibly could be, right? And then you go to, say, Oregon. Oregon is definitely not a bad place. I'm a Buckeye. Full disclosure, I'm a Buckeye. So, but I try to be objective. At least I try. So, whether I am is up for you to determine, of course. But so you go to Oregon. You're a wide receiver. So you are paid $2 million. I don't know. That's probably the highest paid on the team. If you are highest paid wide receiver on the team, you have your obligations. Money is never free. If people pay you money, they expect you to perform. You think about it, Bryce Underwood. They pay you that much money for you to come here to play school? No. They expect you to come here to play. At least you need to improve. You need to do well in the rivalry game. You need to lead the team to some, to victories and maybe to the college playoff and maybe even win championship. I know maybe not the first year, but they expect growth. They expect a lot of things. If they don't get it, the money is going to be in question. And this is money is never free. Somebody pay you, they want more get back. They want more. Even if they are billionaires, they don't care about that money. Still, they even especially billionaires, they are good at math. They pay for something, they want something back. So if you get paid for that, you go to a place like that and you have a lot of pressure and you need to perform early and you need to do a lot of things. Okay? So, and another thing is the development. For Oregon, for as good as Oregon has been, they had only I think 1 second round draft pick last year in Odonzi. And before that, for a long time, it hasn't been very good for wide receivers. I'm not saying they couldn't be better, they couldn't improve. That's not what I'm saying. And it's just the track record is there. But you look at Ohio State. Ohio State, would you, let's first talk about let me just list some of the names there, right? You think about Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, Gary Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Igbuka, and this year is going to be Carnell Tate and J.J. Smith, and you just listen to that. Not to mention like Jamison Williams and people like that. Now, so the track record clearly in favor of Ohio State, but I also have another thing. I mean, if I'm advising my son, supposedly, I would say, you think about it, you get paid $800,000. Is that, that's a lot of money. That will make your life, easier in many ways. You're 18 years old. I know you want a lot, but you also don't really need a lot, But make your life comfortable, and you go to a room, you'll be challenged, and you'll be, you'll be developed. What does development mean? Development means that you need to have a great strengthening program to make sure your body is ready. This is why Jeremiah Smith is so impressive. He came in, become the Iron Buckeye, and that's not easy to do. You 18, 19-year-old, you come into a room full of big-time athletes and become the best. The best. You're better than the 22, 23-year-old who has been in training room for 3, 4, 5 years, and you're better than them. That's so impressive. But that also gives you a foundation. Now you can compete with everybody, compete with those 23-year-olds and still not get hurt and still perform at the best level, So at least the track record shows you can do that. So if you work hard, you come to Ohio State, the strengthening program is there. And then you have less pressure. Like J.J. Smith, Jeremiah Smith, a lot of people who saw the practice says he's going to be number one. But you outside of the program, a lot of people would say, yeah, but he's still a freshman. Give him time, It's okay for Emeka Egbuka to be the number one. He's going to be the number two. No. He didn't. He took over. Starting from the first game, he became number one over Emeka Egbuka as a freshman, true freshman in the wide receiver. But I'm not sure anybody can replicate that. Anybody, even Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't do that. Okay, JSN didn't do that. So I'm not sure, Chris Henry Jr. can do that. So, but the thing is, he doesn't have to, he's not expected to. If you take that kind of money, if you take less than $1 million, you're not number one. You're not expected to be number one. But if you take $2 million to be the highest paid wide receiver on the team, you will be expected to be that. So the expectations are vastly different. Now, you have time to develop. Of course, you can learn. Now, the thing is, with the Brian Hartline gone, does it mean the system totally gone? Like you cannot be developed anymore, the route running? No, it's not just that, right? Because, it has a lot to do with developing. In addition to just one coach tell you about the details about how to play the position, you also need to practice with the best. At Ohio State, the DBs are the best of the country as well. So you have a chance to practice against them, and then you can learn. So there are so many things to go with it, so you can develop. For a big time athlete at like a Chris Henry, it's it's like Oregon is not bad, but it's hard to argue Oregon is better. So that's another reason they pay you more money, because they want to attract you. Other than that, they don't have many other things that can compete. So that's why they throw money at you. But to you, you got to understand, is the money really, really worth it? Because there are different scenarios. There is also a lot of risk associated with that. You think about it, okay, you are 18, 19 year old, but you're playing a violent sports. The sports, for an NFL, is like average tenure is like 4 or 5 years. For college, a lot of people didn't even get out of college to go there. You think about other people, say Julian Fleming, he was the #1 recruit in his class, the overall #1. He went to Ohio State, but it didn't pan out for him. So you could have injuries, you could have other things. So if you have that extra $1.2 million already in your hand, if anything happened to you, say in the next year, you got injured, you cannot play anymore, you still have that money, right? So that's the risk. But on the other hand, there's also the risk if you take that money. You go to a place like Oregon, let's say, and you try to perform, to your expectation. It's a lot of stress. I would argue possibly you have more chance to get hurt. If you get hurt, then the next couple of years you won't be paid, at least not as much. So, and then the money is gone. But if you go to Ohio State, let's say the first year you are eased in. Think about how Ryan Day handles Julian Sain. The first year, just wait and see. The second year, you are starter, but still, try to introduce you and try to protect, all these things he did. I think it's a great planning. So I think the coach, I would trust the coach to examine your situation, to bring you in according to your stage. You are JJ, you're going to be in. You're going to be the #1 the first game. If you're not JJ, that's okay, because you're young, you're developing. So we'll make sure, think about Chris Olave. Chris Olave really shined at the last game of the regular season. So, but, and Gary Wilson got involved much earlier than that, because Gary Wilson was a freak, But the point is, there are merits in both choices. It's like how you choose the better option from two great options, and that's one kind of decision dilemma there. It's not like one is good, one is bad, and that's easy. Those decisions, even monkeys can make them. But when one is good, the other is great, but both with risks. Now, how you decide is kind of it's different. It's also difficult. Now, I want to show you another story. Actually, two stories. The first one is Legend Bey. Legend Bey, I don't want to go into too much details on that on the person, but let's just say he's a 4-star athlete from Texas, and so he originally committed to Tennessee, and then Ohio State got in and saying, we want you, we like you, we think you can do great things here, and he's like, okay, I like you too, so I want to switch. So decommitted from Tennessee and want to switch to Ohio State. Now, but on the signing day, there were a few things happened. Eventually, he signed with Tennessee. A lot of people say, well, that's a surprise. We never heard anything about that. And then some information shows that his mom and elder brother forced him to sign with Tennessee. I don't know, maybe influenced. But the thing is, he's not 18 years old yet. He will turn 18 in about 20 days. And so his signature doesn't count. The story is that he signed the letter of commitment and sent it to Ohio State, but because he's not adult yet, that letter didn't count, because it needs his mother's signature. His mother basically, whatever, so they signed with Tennessee. But he's not giving up. He's saying, when I turn 18, I'm going to get a release from Tennessee and go to the Buckeyes. So we'll see how it goes. But here, this is an interesting thing. This is you know, I have a child, I have a son, so I I can only imagine being a parent try to control your kid. Okay, I understand in your mind you're probably saying, I know better. I'm going to make a better decision for you. You are just a dumb idiot teenager and your life doesn't really matter, unless I told you so. Whatever that is, whatever the view you have, that I would say is probably genuine. But also, you can't ignore there are lots of other things involved. It could be about pride. Again, I don't know any insider information about Legend Bey and his mother and his brother and his family background, anything. I don't know nothing. Okay, so I'm just trying to speculate. So don't attach it to him. I'm not talking about him. I'm just using his example as a starting point. But I'm saying, you're 18 years old, you go to college, you get paid for at least $500,000. I would imagine, maybe not $500,000, but a few $100,000. That's still a lot of money, and to a lot of people, that's a lot of money. And maybe I like this place better than you, or something, and you're still a kid. And there's more to that, because children, especially teenagers, are not always close to their parents, but many of the times they are. So now, how would you go against your parents' will? That's really, let's just say, I would expect a very uncomfortable Christmas dinner at the household this year. It's just a lot of things there. But whenever you have a lot of money involved, you have lots of other things involved. That's why I want to show you the next story. This story is recently out from Sports Illustrated. It's about Ohio State football commit. It's Philip Bell III. The thing is this. I'll give you just a brief description on this. You can read the whole story yourself. It's a lot to peel off in the story, and a lot of things there. So basically, Philip Bell also grew up in California, and his parents divorced when he was very little, and his mother raised him, and then when he started to show up on the football field, as a teenager, his mother basically realized that he's going to make a lot of money and be very successful. So the future is kind of going to be bright. So let's see some of the things. So let's just say Bell Jr., that's his father, and Bell's grandparents are suing based on a lot of things. Suing the mother for custody, because he's not 18 years old yet, and the custody is worth something, and the mother clearly doesn't want to give up. And here is what Bell said. I really never had the best relationship with my dad. I feel like he tried to take control of me when my mom died. My grandparents on my mom's side tried to do so as well. I didn't feel like it was right. It's just that you are 17, 18 years old. You are a money machine now. You can make a few $100,000 a year. You bring that in. It's a lot of money for a lot of people. And people are going to, want to be a piece, want a piece of that. And there's a lot of things about his mom as well. I really just don't want to say anything remotely bad about any people, because I really don't know them. All I get it from the article. But apparently his mom had a diabetes and also had some drug issues and died in Las Vegas. Um, it's just it's really tragic. So now you think about that. You think about it. Now he's on the Ohio State Buckeyes team. He's not really making any noises yet in terms of on-field performance. I never I don't think he has get on the field yet. So, but I'm sure he's paid. He got scholarship. He got his life is basically taken care of, and he got some NIL money at least. So I just hope he can overcome that. But the thing is, my wife and I talk about decision making and things like that. People's upbringings has a lot to do with a person's decision making. And there is a saying which is kind of condescending, but I think it's kind of also very telling. There's a saying says, you can take a girl out of a trailer park, but you cannot take the trailer park out of the girl, right? Something like that. I really don't know. But the point is, you can get out of your past, but your past will not just get away from you. And a stable environment, and it's just I don't know. I mean, I don't know about based on the description. I think Bell has had a single parent with mom, but grandparents were helping along the way, I think. And Legend Bey, I only heard about his mom, but not his dad, so I don't really know. Chris, of course, if you follow the football, his dad died. But I think Chris, his father played for the National Football League, so financially he should be okay. At least he should never. I don't think in his life when he grew up he ever worried about finances. But for the other two families, I don't know. I can say that. But what I can say is this: if you make $50,000 a year to get by, when you suddenly see $500,000, it's a lot of money. But if you have seen millions of dollars, Chris Henry, his father made millions of dollars, dozens of millions of dollars at least, when he played for the Cincinnati Bengals. So he knows money. So money doesn't really faze him that much. So 1.2 million, yeah, it's a lot of money for a lot of us, right? For the most of us. But it does not necessarily have, is the most important thing to him. So I think that kind of helps you with the perspective a little bit. But if you are poor, if you're really poor, let's say you make $100,000 a year to raise a child, it's still a lot of burden, right? And now suddenly you see that money, all those dollar signs and all those potentials, and it can mess somebody up. It really can. It's money is, a lot of people say money is evil. It kind of is. By evil, I don't mean money is bad. I want money. You want money. We all want money. But the thing is, money is an overwhelming force. You can talk all you want about commitment, loyalty, development, the future, human values, self-worth, whatever. You can talk about all those things all you want. But when the money is on the table, it's hard to change your focus from that. It's very hard for anybody. And so, yeah, I mean, you think about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin said, "Oh, I don't know how much is in my contract. I don't care about money." I'm sure, yeah, that's the thing. But what can it tell to us? Like we make decisions about our lives as well, and yeah, I remember I gave advice to a friend years ago, and she She comes to me and said, she had 2 job offers. That was in China. One offer was okay. The other job offers like 5 times the money. And she asked me, "Oh, which one should I choose?" I said, "What do you mean? You know, I don't mean sound like money is the only thing that matters, but these 2 jobs were not that much different for her. It's not like one is her dream, like the other one is not. Both of them are similar jobs. Yeah, and she made it sound like she was kind of seriously considering. I was like, just take it. Yeah, just take it, right? Anywho, um, so when we talk about decision making, there are a few things to think about. One is, of course, the immediate benefits, like $1.2 million difference. The other one is potential long term. You think about it. The likely case of scenario. If you go to Ohio State, you probably will, let's say Chris Henry Jr., okay? The first year, you probably have, get into the 2 deep, get into the top 6 of the top 5 of the wide receivers. You still have like Quincy Porter and Melvin Graham and Brandon Innes and J.J. Smith and others, maybe Philip Bell, You have other players there. So you get into the 2 deep. And then the second year, you become a starter. You become the top 3. JJ will be gone. BI will be gone. And it won't surprise me to be the number 1, wide receiver 1 on the team. You play 2 years at wide receiver 1 at Ohio State. You get paid as such. I don't think Ohio State paid any less than any of the other top programs in the country. So you get paid as such. And then you become a first-round draft to the National Football League. You think about it, you look at Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate came in, he started to play, right? But he was never number 1. Even this year, he's not number 1, but he's going to be a first-round draft pick, For Chris Henry, the ceiling is high. He could be a potential Megatron, So then you go to an NFL and you are well trained and you have a good career. That's a lot more money than just $1.2 million. Okay, and if you go to Oregon, you may be a starter from the first season, and there will be a lot of responsibility. You play 3 or 4 years, you get paid, of course, and then you go to NFL. You can still be a very high draft pick, I suppose, because they also have their strength program. They also have their DBs, it's a good team. So it could be, but I would argue that the probability is slightly less than Ohio State. But in long term, you don't know. You really don't know. So it's hard to judge. But then you go to NFL, so it's just a... So, I mean, if you focus on the development, I think this is might be the best case scenario for you. You think about, say, Philip Bell. Philip Bell, I don't think there were lots of drama back in the day, but I would imagine if you are a wide receiver at Ohio State, you can be, you can go to many other programs and become a contributor, at least 2 deep or something. I know he's only a freshman and he's going to be a sophomore or something. Even if you can't become a starter at Ohio State, you can still be a good one somewhere. But again, I don't know anything specifics, but if this were my son, I would basically tell them to stay put for 3 years. See how it goes. You develop 3 years at Ohio State and see where it goes. If you can start, you can play for the team, you play for the team. If you can't, that's the time you decide to go somewhere else to make some money and possibly make a name for yourself and hope for the best for the future. I think that's not going to be flashy. So the first 2-3 years, you may feel like, wow, I can never be like those guys or something like that, But don't be discouraged. This is the best possible scenario for you, the best possible development for you. Maybe you won't reach that, but that means anywhere else you won't get that either. So this is it's really not for everybody. This is big time sports. Not everybody, even on Ohio State team, not everybody is going to develop into a first round draft or something like that, or play in the NFL. I know there are like 14 players selected, 16 players selected in this year's draft, 16, but it's probably like 30 people graduated. So nearly half of these people still need to lead a relatively normal life. Well, no, yeah, it's may not be a normal life, but they won't be playing for the football league, National Football League, But they are still developing here, and it's not bad. It's not bad to get paid to play a sports and to learn something in school, and then for your future. So anyway, so now if let's just try to sum it up, is that life is messy, it's complicated, and there's so many people can be involved. But from a decision-making perspective, sometimes you need to balance things. You need to balance your immediate benefit versus long-term benefit. You also need to consider other perspectives. And money is a big issue, but it shouldn't be the dominant issue. And sometimes it's worth to exclude it from your equation, and then add it back in later. You put your options there, and then evaluate them as if they are the same financially, and make a decision, and then you add the money factor back in. So it's almost like I heard people talk about the family is poor, so I need to take the money now to help the family or something. Even if that's the case, you think about the difference between 800,000 and 2 million. 800,000 can do a lot, really can do a lot, Anyway, so that's like my 2 cents on this. It's the thing about the decision is also this. Like I said, you can't take your past out of that, right? You think about Philip Bell's mother, and the whole family, the father and grandparents and things like that, and Legend Bey's family, they are thinking from their own perspective. So I'm sure they have a way to justify the way they are thinking. But if any of them wanted to kind of take a different perspective, it helps to get out of the context, and to realize your own past and realize your own biases, and then try to evaluate that on a rational perspective. It's definitely easier said than done, especially you have a lot of noises and time pressure and all those things going on there. So in these cases, Philip Bell's, his future is still unfolding, but the drama is kind of ended in a way. And Chris Jr. is also, the drama kind of ended, and the next step is to see how well he does. But the story for Legend Bey is still evolving. We'll see at the end of the year what's going to happen. It's like, some sense tells me that we'll hear more about this story. Maybe not as expected by us. But in any case, it's not easy. When you are 18, you deal with this, and my sympathy comes to him. I just hope things work out, and so that concludes this. I hope this episode is helpful in some way. Anyway, This is again, this is 2 legs better, and please subscribe and come back and leave your comments or ask questions if you have any, or discussions or whatever, and I truly appreciate that. The channel is still growing. Yeah, I know I'm not the most diligent poster on this, but I do have a passion for football. I have a passion for decision making and negotiation, and my passion for coaching and teaching. So I will post as much as I could. By the way, I'm going to Fiji tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to Fiji, and hopefully the Buckeyes can win tomorrow's game and get the conference champion, and then I will come back to watch the rest of this year's championship run, the college football playoff. Anywho, so that's it for today. You guys all have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.